It was the worst morning of Ethan's life. He woke up in the hospital, his body aching, his mind in disarray. When he looked in the mirror, he saw a man he no longer recognized. His mind was blank, and he couldn't remember anything about the accident. He didn't remember what had happened or who caused it. All memories, all dreams of the future had vanished, leaving only a deep void. Ethan Harrow was the sole heir to Harrow Industries, and he lived a life that most people could only dream of. Harrow Industries was an unbreakable empire, providing high-tech products and management services to many of the world's important industries. The company had gone through decades of building and development, and, under Ethan's leadership, it had become even stronger. He was an ideal figure, a capable, calm, and passionate man. To Ethan, life was like a ship sailing on the wide sea, steered steadily by a firm hand, and nothing could stop him. Every day, Ethan woke up with a sense of satisfaction when looking at what he had achieved. In the morning, he often walked around the family estate, admiring the beautiful surroundings and enjoying the fresh air. Breakfast was prepared perfectly, and he spent a short time chatting with his sister, Victoria, who had always been with him throughout his career journey. Every time they sat together as a family, Ethan felt a strong connection, and each word of encouragement felt like a medicine that helped him keep moving forward. Ethan's sister, Victoria, was a smart and sharp woman. Though she didn't directly participate in the family business, she was always there as a companion, advising and supporting Ethan when he faced difficulties. They had a very special relationship, as inseparable companions who always understood and empathized with each other's struggles. But even as his career continued to rise, Ethan always felt something was missing in his life. It was love. He had never found anyone who could make his heart race as he desired. Although many women surrounded him, he never felt that any relationship was genuine. One evening, when the city lights began to dim and the sky turned purple, Ethan sat alone in his office, looking out the window. Everything seemed to be going smoothly, but an unexpected sense of unease suddenly came over him. He could feel that something was wrong, as if a storm was approaching, but he couldn't pinpoint what it was. Even though everything in his life seemed perfect, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that a major challenge was coming, something that could change everything. Soon after, a sudden car accident occurred, leading to unimaginable consequences. The accident not only caused Ethan to lose important memories, but also took away his inherent confidence. When he woke up after the accident, he felt like a completely different person. Everything he once knew about himself, his family, his work, now seemed blurred. The strange feeling when looking into the mirror at a man he no longer recognized was a huge shock to him. The erased memories were not just ordinary moments, but also important events that had built who he was, an heir, a leader, and a strong, confident man. For Ethan, this change affected not only his body but also shook the solid foundation of the life he had worked so hard to build. Before the accident, his life was like a smooth journey with no obstacles. He was proud of himself, of what he had achieved and what lay ahead. But now, signs of changes in his perception and emotions made him doubt everything. He no longer felt the certainty he once had. Everything became unstable and unclear. Victoria, his sister, who had been with him since childhood, was deeply worried when she saw that he couldn't recognize her. As the one who had always been there, understanding his every emotion and thought, Victoria couldn't bear to see her brother turn away when she called his name. She began searching for ways to help Ethan recover, not just physically, but mentally. She sought out the best doctors and memory recovery specialists, hoping that one day he would remember everything. But nothing could prepare her for the pain of seeing Ethan grow more and more distant, even when they were close. Every day, Victoria sat by Ethan's side, telling him about the past, about the beautiful family memories, about childhood stories that only she and Ethan understood. She was patient, never giving up, hoping that little by little memories would return, that one day he would look at her and recognize that she was the loving sister who had always protected him. But no matter how hard she tried, Ethan silently looked at her, with no sign of recognition. Eventually, the results paid off. After a long period of treatment, Ethan's memory began to return. Faint memories gradually became clearer, and he could recognize familiar faces around him. He recalled past events, meaningful moments in his life, and his loved ones. However, even though he regained his memory, Ethan still couldn't return to the way he was. Something inside him had changed. Instead of opening up and accepting everything as it was, Ethan decided to pretend to live in confusion. He didn't want to quickly accept what he remembered, because deep down he still felt an unexplainable fear. He sensed that something wasn't right, and he knew that a plot was silently unfolding around him. This feeling grew stronger, and Ethan understood that to protect himself, he couldn't let his suspicions show. He suspected his half-brother, Ethan Harrow, was behind the accident. Ethan had always been unpredictable, and although they grew up together in the same family, their relationship had never been truly warm. Ethan always showed strong ambition, and though he never expressed it openly, Ethan couldn't ignore the feeling that he had ulterior motives. Ethan had always quietly tried to take control of the company, and Ethan believed that accident might be part of his plan. For this reason, Ethan decided to pretend he remembered nothing, living in a deliberate state of confusion to observe and learn about the people around him. He couldn't let anyone know that his memory had returned because he needed time to figure out who was behind the plot. He believed that only by pretending this way could he uncover the truth, and only when he knew the full plot could he act to protect himself and his family from the potential dangers. Victoria, still unaware that Ethan had regained his memory, continued to believe he was still in the long recovery process. Even though there were small positive signs, Ethan hadn't fully returned to his old self. With a heart full of love and deep care, Victoria kept trying to help her brother overcome the emotional pain caused by the accident. She sought every method to help him recover, from medical therapies to creating a warm environment full of love around Ethan. One of the ideas Victoria believed would work was to introduce a female friend, Cassandra, to Ethan. Victoria hoped that Cassandra, with her gentle nature, understanding, and beautiful appearance, would be the one to help Ethan not only recover his memory, but also be the ideal companion to help him overcome his emotional pain. Cassandra, in Victoria's view, could be the key to helping him regain his memory and fill the emotional void Ethan was missing. In addition to supporting him in his recovery, Victoria hoped Cassandra would become Ethan's ideal love, a love that would bring him the peace he truly deserved. Victoria believed that finding true love would be a powerful medicine that could help Ethan get through this difficult period. When Cassandra first entered Ethan's life, she brought a breath of fresh air. She was a graceful woman, always showing care and attention to every little detail. Cassandra's appearance made the atmosphere in the house gentler and warmer. With her bright smile and friendly attitude, she quickly won Victoria's affection, who had high hopes for her help with Ethan. Every time Cassandra encouraged Ethan, took care of him, or simply talked to him, it created a close and friendly atmosphere that helped him feel more relaxed and comfortable in his confused state. However, despite her perfect appearance and kind heart, Ethan couldn't fully relax around Cassandra. Although she always appeared to be kind and likable, an uneasy feeling about something being wrong still lingered in Ethan's heart. With his sharp intellect and natural suspicious nature, he couldn't help but question Cassandra's true motives. Was she really the friend Victoria trusted? Or was she just part of a scheme set up by someone? The uneasy feeling inside him grew stronger as he noticed things about Cassandra that didn't quite add up. Ethan's suspicions grew stronger every time he noticed actions from Cassandra that seemed unclear. She often met with people Ethan didn't know, and on a few occasions, she withheld information he couldn't inquire about. These actions made Ethan even more confused, and the more he thought about it, the more he couldn't fully trust Cassandra. Despite her gentle demeanor and caring attitude, the feeling remained that she could be the person Christian, Ethan's half-brother, had planted to monitor him, to gather information about the family. However, Ethan didn't act hastily. He understood that he needed to stay calm, not let negative emotions influence his decisions. Instead of confronting her directly, he decided to observe every action, gesture, and word from Cassandra. Every time she came near, he constantly analyzed her motives, looking for clues or changes that could prove his suspicions right. He knew that only with patience and vigilance could he uncover the truth, and he didn't want any emotions to interfere with his journey to uncover the conspiracy he suspected. However, after living with Cassandra for a long time and observing her every action, something unexpected happened. His suspicions gradually faded as he realized that Cassandra was not who he had thought she was. Her sincere actions, the conversations she had with him, her caring gestures, and the deep concern she showed Ethan made him begin to change his perspective. She had no ulterior motives, no part in any plan. She was just a woman full of love and kindness. Ethan began to realize that Cassandra's concern for him wasn't a scheme or a plan. Every action she took came from kindness and genuine care. Every time she prepared a meal, helped him regain old habits, or simply listened to him share his worries, Ethan realized she truly just wanted to help him get through the pain and loss he was facing. After living with Cassandra for a while, Ethan gradually realized that love didn't come from coercion or any schemes. Indeed, Cassandra had made his heart stir in a natural and effortless way. She was a woman with a pure soul, unburdened by any plans, and it was this that made Ethan feel genuine love for her, emotions he couldn't control. Their love didn't just come from mutual care during difficult times, but also from a natural connection between two people, a connection built on understanding and compassion. Ethan's feelings of suspicion slowly disappeared, replaced by a deep and intense affection he could no longer ignore. Ethan loved Cassandra for who she was, a woman full of love, tenderness, and a big heart. And through this, he realized that true love was the most important thing. And it was this love that would help him move through the darkness, find joy and peace in life. Cassandra was not just Ethan's wife. She was the solid foundation he found in the hardest times. Each day their affection for each other deepened, and Ethan realized that Cassandra was the one who brought him the peace he had long sought. Her eyes, full of care and warmth, and her gentle gestures always made him feel like he had found peace amidst life's storms. The comfort Cassandra gave him was not only a mental balm, but also a powerful motivator to face the past wounds, the ghosts that haunted him each night. And when Ethan discovered Cassandra's painful past, his heart grew even fuller of love and determination to protect her from all the pain. Cassandra, the small woman who had always been by his side, had endured countless sufferings and wounds Ethan had never known. Her past was not a light story, but a long chain of pain no one should have to endure. She had been a victim of a world of crime she had not chosen, and although she tried to hide it, that past was always a wound in her heart that could never be erased. Cassandra's brother, Alex, was a man of vanity, laziness, and a life of indulgence. Due to his gambling addiction and mounting debts, Alex had sold his own sister to a group of strangers to pay his debts. Tragically, Cassandra not only had to endure betrayal from her brother, but was also dragged into dangerous and humiliating situations where she was no longer the owner of her own life. she had to live in the shadows, where betrayal and pain always lurked. Even though Cassandra tried to appear strong, that wound never healed. When Ethan investigated Cassandra's painful past, his heart ached even more. He couldn't bear to know that the very brother Cassandra had always hoped would protect her was the one who had been a ruthless betrayer. To Ethan, nothing could be more unacceptable than a family member, especially a brother, treating his sister so cruelly. The suffering Cassandra had endured, even though she tried to appear strong, only made Ethan feel the responsibility to protect and love her. He promised to make up for everything she had gone through, no matter how difficult it might be. Cassandra had lived too long in the shadows of betrayal and pain, but now he wanted to be the light that guided her, the one who helped her find peace in her soul, helping her forget the pain she never deserved to carry. Even though Ethan loved Cassandra with all his heart, he couldn't ignore what was happening in his own family. The suspicions about Christian weighed more heavily on Ethan's heart, and he was determined to confess his true feelings to Cassandra, not only to protect her, but also to build a better future for both of them. But before that, Ethan had to uncover the truth, so that nothing, from the past to the present, could affect those he loved. During his investigation into the accident, Ethan discovered some unusual traces and began to suspect that Christian was behind the accident. With the horrific plot of seizing the family's assets, the financial decisions Christian made, the unclear meetings, all pointed to the fact that he might have planned it in advance. However, Ethan still didn't have enough evidence to expose the truth. He couldn't act rashly, because any mistake might lead him set for him. Ethan secretly gathered evidence. He searched for any information, leaving no small detail unnoticed, whether in company documents or secret conversations he overheard. Fortunately, thanks to the love and encouragement Cassandra gave him, Ethan became even more steadfast in this process, because he understood that in difficult times, she was the one he could rely on. Cassandra wasn't just a wife, but a confidant, someone he could entrust with all his worries. Although the storm within the family was simmering, Ethan's heart no longer only held fear and doubt, but also the love he had for Cassandra. When Ethan prepared to publicly reveal the truth about the accident and confess his feelings to Cassandra, thinking he was ready to step into a new life, one where he and she could build a happy future together, an unexpected tragedy struck. Cassandra, the wife he loved most, was kidnapped by her own brother Alex in a violent attack. Ethan had known Alex was a bad person, but he hadn't expected his cruelty to go so far beyond imagination. Alex, with his greed and cruelty, had kidnapped Cassandra to pressure Victoria, Ethan's sister, demanding a ransom if she wanted to see Cassandra alive. To Alex, everything could be bought with money, including family, and he had no hesitation in using his own family as pawns in his game. When the news of Cassandra's disappearance reached Ethan, he was completely stunned. A sense of confusion, fear, and anger overwhelmed him. Everything seemed to collapse in an instant. He couldn't understand why Alex would act like this. It wasn't just betrayal, it was the ultimate betrayal. A cruelty no one could imagine coming from Cassandra's very brother. Ethan couldn't accept the prospect of Cassandra being held captive, threatened by her own family, knowing how she would have to endure that horrific pain. The pain she had endured seemed to have been partially soothed. Now it surged back, stronger, more painful than ever. Though the feeling of helplessness consumed Ethan, he never gave up hope. He was determined to rescue Cassandra, not just out of love, but out of his responsibility. He couldn't let her continue to live in betrayal and suffering, especially knowing everything she had endured was undeserved. The tense moments, the relentless efforts to track down and find Cassandra, all led to one goal: bringing her back. While Ethan and Victoria tirelessly searched for ways to rescue Cassandra, she, in her dire situation, gradually discovered a horrifying truth. When she was held captive in an abandoned house, her freedom stripped away for days, Cassandra began to realize that everything she had once trusted about her family was just a false shell. Alex, in a moment of revealing the truth, told Cassandra that she was not his real sister. What Cassandra never expected, the truth she never thought would happen, was now exposed. She was an adopted child in Alex's family, someone who had been taken in not out of love, but for an entirely different reason, a reason she couldn't accept. These words were like a huge shock to Cassandra, leaving her stunned, unable to believe what she had just heard. The feeling of betrayal from those she had loved and trusted, the people she thought would protect her all her life, made her feel as though the world was collapsing before her eyes. Cassandra had not only been betrayed by Alex, the person she had once called her brother, but also by a family she had trusted as her own. She felt as though she had lived all these years in a dream, believing the lies without ever knowing. She was not a part of this family, but just an object left behind, used and discarded when she had no value. When the truth came to light, Cassandra's heart shattered. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. The feeling of being betrayed by her own family made her feel lost in her own life. How could she continue to live a life when she didn't even know who she was and where her real family was? The unanswered questions broke her soul. She felt like an outsider in her own life. Cassandra fell into a state of mental crisis. The truth was too brutal, too painful for her to accept. She felt like she no longer existed, like someone forgotten in a family full of deceit. The pain of betrayal couldn't easily be erased, no matter how hard she tried to deny it. She had once loved her family when she was a part of it, but now she couldn't understand herself in that relationship. During her captivity, Cassandra fought alone with negative thoughts and psychological storms. She had to face the horrifying truth about her identity, while also battling the pain of loss and the feeling of being deceived. However, over time, she began to realize something important. She couldn't let this betrayal affect her current life. Even though the truth about her past caused her pain, it was Cassandra, with her inner strength, who could decide her future. When Victoria received the ransom demand for Cassandra, she didn't hesitate to prepare a large sum of money to meet Alex's demand, even though she knew that this action could only solve part of the problem, but couldn't eliminate all the potential threats and dangers. She still hoped that by paying the ransom, Cassandra would be freed, and the family's life would return to normal. However, the truth was not as simple as that. When Victoria arrived at the meeting point, she didn't expect that the person who appeared before her wasn't Alex, but Christian, Ethan's half-brother. Victoria's heart stopped when she saw Christian standing there, his face cold and ruthless. At that moment, she realized that things were not just a simple kidnapping for money. Christian, with his boundless ambition and insatiable greed, was the one behind this plot. He had exploited the situation to create chaos, intending to destroy the entire Harrow family and easily seize the assets. Victoria tried to control her emotions and maintain her stance, but this truth was too overwhelming. Christian, the one she had once considered her brother, was now the one orchestrating a cruel scheme. Everything suddenly became clear. Christian not only wanted the family's assets, but he also wanted to eliminate anyone who could obstruct him, including Victoria. She became his prey, a target that needed to be removed so his plan could succeed. When Victoria was cornered in a dangerous situation, fortunately, Ethan, the brother she had always loved and trusted, appeared just in time. Although Ethan had secretly gathered evidence and prepared a detailed plan for a long time, he hadn't expected that this confrontation would come so quickly. After gathering enough evidence of Christian's involvement in the accident and his boundless greed, Ethan realized that now was the crucial time to expose his scheme. When Ethan appeared, the atmosphere became tense. Christian was completely surprised to learn that Ethan had recovered his memory long ago, and that he had only pretended not to recover to secretly investigate Christian's plan. The two confronted each other in a threatening silence, every look, every word containing resentment and determination. Ethan couldn't believe what Christian had done, but now there was no time for pity. He had to rescue Cassandra, protect his family, and make Christian pay for the crimes he had committed. The confrontation between Ethan and Christian was tense, like a life-or-death battle with no retreat. Ethan, with his meticulous preparation, exposed Christian and Alex's criminal plot. All the events so far, from the car accident to Cassandra's kidnapping, were steps in Christian's grand plan to seize the Harrow family's assets. Christian, with his boundless greed, had used any means necessary to achieve his goal. But all his efforts were shattered when Ethan, with solid evidence in hand, forced him to face the truth. While the intense confrontation between Ethan and Christian was happening, Cassandra, from her dire situation, showed her strength. She was not only a victim of cruelty, but also a fighter protecting what she believed in. With Ethan and Victoria's support, Cassandra was finally rescued from the hands of the criminals. But more importantly, in these decisive moments, Cassandra had found herself again, a strong woman, no longer a victim, but a survivor, rising from the suffering she had endured. After everything calmed down, Ethan didn't hesitate to admit his true feelings for Cassandra. He looked at her, his heart full of love, and finally said what he had been keeping inside for so long. He loved her, not just for what she had brought to his life, but for who she truly was. The suffering she had gone through, the challenges she had faced, only increased the love and admiration he had for her. Cassandra was not just his wife. She was the one he cherished, the one who had shown him that love. Wasn't just about sacrifice, but about strength, resilience, and overcoming every difficulty together.